Good morning and welcome to the Pause Rewind and Play podcast. It might be evening where you're listening to it, midday, who knows? But we're here to talk about movies as always. This is kind of an ad hoc, winging it episode more so than probably would like to admit fully. We were supposed to actually watch and talk about a film called Talk to Me, right? Which is an Australian horror film. And I had like the worst experience this past week. I was in California for work. And I was like, I'm going to go watch this movie because we talked about doing it. Lo and behold, it's a lot harder to watch a movie when your account is thinking you're supposed to be in Utah and you try to purchase tickets. And it's like, whoa, someone's fraudulently trying to buy tickets for one. So you try doing it as a guest. And then two, your card's like, you're not supposed to be in California either. And I was like, no, this is all set up. So I went to a theater in person and they'd actually cycled the movie out. It wasn't in-house and it was very disappointing. So sorry, guys. I keep ruining the podcast.
I'll just say I'm disappointed that we don't get to talk about it, but I'm more disappointed that you didn't get to see it because honestly, guys, this might be my movie of the year.
Really?
I loved Talk to Me. It was so freaking good. Best horror movie I've seen in a long, long time.
It's a New Zealand or an Australian film, right? One of the two.
Australian.
You know more than I do, the Raka Raka Bros.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Also, I'm Vince. That's Josh. This is Casey.
What up?
And we're the Pause Rewind Play podcast people.
Yeah, so this movie was, there's these guys who have a YouTube channel called Raka Raka. I don't know. I haven't watched their videos. It was just kind of like as...
I went back and watched them after I heard all of this stuff because I'd never heard of them either, but they've been around for years.
Oh, long time. I watched some interviews with these guys that they did afterwards when the movie was coming out, and a lot of people were just like, this is so crazy to see because I've been watching these guys forever on YouTube, and they do good content and whatnot, and this is so crazy to see them like progress to this and make this like full-length feature film and have it turn out this well pretty much is the thing. So I loved it as well. I'm pretty sure Vince gave it 5.
Oh, 5 out of 5.
5 stars
it's
on Letterboxd.
excellent.
I gave it 4.5. Like, to be fair, before you pause the podcast right now and run to the theater to see it after hearing those recommendations, I think we are a little on the high end.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Not like too crazy. Its average is 3.7 on Letterboxd. So just one of those solid ones where like a ton of people give it a 4, and then a decent amount 4.5, 5, and then 3.5s and down pretty much. All of my friends have given it 4 or above though as well. So it is a solid watch. Highly recommend. It just felt so unique. Is the biggest thing about it. Is there's so many horror movies that just play on the same tropes and all this stuff. And even though it felt like this could be something that would slip into it with it being about possession and family dynamics and whatnot, it felt like it could have slid into that. And it just felt so new, so fresh. And like the effects were surprisingly good because it was a small, I mean, comparatively, right? But it's a small budget film. And for the effects that they were able to do during this, it was a good one. And they've already announced that they're making a sequel.
I saw that. And at first I was just like, that's such a bummer. Like, this is such a perfectly contained horror movie. But then I listened to some interviews with the Raka Raka guys. And it sounds like, because they're going to do the next one. And it's in good hands. Like, they literally made this movie. They were offered, rumor, I don't know how true this is, but they were actually offered like a DC movie, they didn't say specifically which one, but like Hollywood approached them and wanted them to make a movie. They even were talking to Hollywood executives about making this through some Hollywood company, whatever, instead of doing like it independently in Australia like they did. But they said that after they started like moving ahead with them, they could tell that there would be a lot of like executive
ways to move it and change the story.
Move in, change the story, and they didn't want that. They wanted to do their own thing. They wanted it to be, true to what they wrote and what they wanted it to be, and it came out how it is. And so just that idea, like the point that I'm making is like they know what they want to make, and they have such a cool idea with this whole world that they've created. Like they can't expand it. In another interview I listened to, they talked about how they actually have a lot of scenes written already for the second one.
Oh wow!
Because the guy got so motivated writing this movie that he just like kept writing, and he had scenes that they didn't use for this one that would like expand the lore and just like really dig into what's going on and stuff. And
so it'll fit in really well.
Yeah, so after hearing that, I was just like, okay, maybe this will be like a Quiet Place 2 situation where I was like, oh, this was such a perfectly done horror movie. We don't need to expand the universe, just let it sit on its own. And then the second one comes out, it's like, oh, okay, that actually expanded it really well. I'm actually enjoying this. Like, so I think it's in good hands. I'm okay with it.
I like that. And it's also not just like we're creating a cinematic universe.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
have you seen all the Mattel stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Like, have you, KZ?
I haven't. I haven't
So
seen anything.
Twitter is obviously my main movie place. Where
Sorry,
I
you
look
mean
at all
X?
this. X. Ugh. It's still twitter.com for now, but if you type in x.com, it does.
It comes through.
It does forward you through.
Sorry, I just had to say that.
Well, dude, the other part is all of these things that like I see on the internet and think are going to be fake. I can't even tell anymore because, well, obviously like AI is one thing, but then like all of this Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, they're fighting for real.
So
Like,
can I
what is this?
highlight this really quickly when you're talking about this? I know you want to go talk about something really quick from Twitter with the Mattel universe, right? So for work, I was in California, in Silicon Valley, okay? And all the tech people, this is like the laughing comedy of the hour. Like people are like, have you heard about this? And I'm like, only parts of it. And then they have like each have a slightly different thing that's going to happen. Like they're all building stuff. And then, yeah, it was just amazing. And I was like, I'm glad I don't live in the heart of all this where people like have, this is what they talk about all day. But it was hilarious to sit down and see some like the most intelligent people I know talk about this like literal, like I feel like it's that, you know, that
What are they talking about? The fight? Or?
The fight between like
Okay,
just
the fight
all
between Elon and...
Yeah, sorry,
Elon
I
and
probably didn't
Zuck.
give...
Not like the literal fist fight, but just like
Just
the
like all
warring
the crap
companies.
that could be
okay.
happening, what's going to develop, like which tycoon will fall first, essentially.
I thought you were going to say they were all sitting around talking about who would win in the ring between Zuck and Elon.
I think sadly it would be Elon, and I say that very honestly as a sadly
he fights dirty.
Here's the thing.
Because he always fights dirty. And plus
He fights
he's built,
dirty and he's bigger.
he's built like Teddy Roosevelt, and that man never lost a
But
fight.
Zuck is trained.
But that's the thing. He is trained and he's strong. Like he's been working out with like
He's
the
also an
MMA
alien,
people.
so-
or an android, like
Exactly.
it's got android strength, right? That's what I've heard. Like I read it on the internet. So
Actually, have you seen, it's an old movie called iRobot? He looks just like the robots from them.
Really?
Go look at that later. Sorry. Zuck, don't sue me. It's just an observational thing. This is observational comedy. Just accept it. But you're talking about the Mattel Expanded Cinematic Universe. Is it a real
gosh.
thing? Are people going to be like, are we going to get actually the Alan movie?
no, worse.
No, worse. It's just like it's not even just that they're expanding from the Barbie world. It is that it would be all within the same universe, right? In quotations, but it's all of the different, just pretty much just all of the
Like Hot
properties,
Wheels, I
all
think,
of
is the next one.
entities that these people own, and they're gonna go ahead and make it. And they're talking about like. I don't even remember what it is, but it's like Polly Pocket. Like we're gonna make a Polly Pocket movie. We're gonna make a Magic 8-Ball movie. We're gonna make a Rubik's Cube, like stuff like that.
Dude, just
like,
come talk to me when they make the Stretch Armstrong movie. I'm in.
and you're in for that.
Well-
but it's just like, okay, did they not get, like, obviously, right? It's a business, and they're just like, money. Look at the money. And so obviously, Barbie crossed $1 billion, right? Made over $1 billion.
it's
It's
crazy.
one of 53 movies.
I
ever
still,
in
side
the
note,
world.
I went and saw a movie on Tuesday night, I think it was, and there's still people showing up to the theater dressed in pink.
100%.
It's 3 weeks out.
100%.
People are still
doing
dressing
it.
up. Anyway.
So, but yeah, and so basically they're just like, oh, we made like $1 billion from this. We need to keep it rolling. We need to do all this stuff. And everyone is just like, you don't get it. Like, we liked Barbie because it was Greta Gerwig, Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling, and it was just this self-contained, perfect movie that didn't require a sequel, that didn't require a universe for it to be interesting, to have more lore and all this stuff. It's just a perfect little story in itself that was able to be and done. And so people are like, yeah, so we're just cut this out. People like calling for it to stop, but then other people are like, okay, we're calling for it to stop too, but don't tell me like the second they're like Angela Bassett dressing up as the Magic 8-Ball, you're gonna be like, yeah, I'm there. Like,
So here's the actual question, I guess. Then, like, I think that's really interesting. Like, the success of that movie is because, like you said, self-contained. It can stand on its own legs, right?
great directing,
Great acting. Like, the whole entire thing is beautiful, right? And we have to shout out that cast and what they built. But do you think that we're exhausted of franchises, like, as a whole? I'm tired of franchises in ways. Like, I could do like a double feature or the classic Lord of the Rings triple play, but I don't necessarily know that I'm ready for another, like, I'm burned out with Marvel and DC because it's just like a long story and I can't keep the details straight anymore. I don't know. Do you feel like people are that way? Do you feel that way? Or am I just up in the night and should probably go drink coffee after this?
No, I think it depends on the person. But
I think I like franchises still. Like, I think it's good if you can have like fairly self-contained. Like, I can save room for there being longer stretches of things like Star Wars being spread out, and like obviously the Marvel Cinematic Universe is getting way too much right now, but I understand there being ones that expand over years and years because you can grow up with it and get nostalgic when you watch these new movies, even though they're about old stories. And I understand that. I like smaller ones too, just like little trilogies or like Talk to Me and Talk to Me Too. Like that's something I could see. We talked about it. But I also love being able to have a film that is just focused on itself. It's not focused on anything else. Self-contained, a film like what I thought Talk to Me was. I guess they're going to do another one, but like basically something small like that. Oppenheimer, what we thought Barbie was, sort of, just like these films where they just focus on making one great film and there doesn't need to be anything else. Films like Parasite, stuff like that, right? Where it's just like that movie. And we just need uniqueness. That's the problem is if you bring a movie into a franchise, you already have some of the story set. And so that's not like necessarily bad. It just means like some of the storytelling aspect is taken away from that film because there's a lot of exposition that you are already kind of supposed to know as the story goes along. Obviously, the specific story, they kind of give you more details, but I like the idea of having a story start, get exciting, climax, and end all within 2 hours. Like it's just an exciting thing to be able to have those self-contained films. So there's room for both. I just think there needs to be a good balance.
Exactly. I would never want to cut out franchise movies. I am the biggest Star Wars fan in the room.
He loves Fast and the Furious.
Not Fast and Furious. But the problem, in my opinion, right now is the amount of franchise movies that are constantly being released. Like, we're getting like 3 Marvel movies and like 4 TV shows this year. I mean, they've changed it up for the future, but I think that dilutes the content, that dilutes the excitement of it all. I mean, look at Star Wars as an example. Like, when The Force Awakens came out, that was an event because we went 4 years without a Star Wars. Yeah. And the ones before that weren't very good. And so like there was hope that it was going to reinvigorate this franchise. I love being in this world, I would never want that world taken away from me, but I don't need to constantly be in it. So I feel like with franchises there and something new and unique, there should be this good balance of like maybe only release 1 movie per year, 2 movies per year, maybe 1 every couple of years, for these franchises. So it spreads it out a little bit, makes it feel a little bit more special. There's not this like pressure to deliver. People don't get fatigued. The stories don't all feel as repetitive because there's some space between it all. I think that's kind of how franchise movies should go. And then that leaves open space for actual like unique alternatives to go to see, like Talk to Me or something like that off to the side. So
you're describing Dune. Is what
Dune's
you're saying.
Perfect, except for, well, I don't know, because there's a TV show coming out for Dune,
I didn't know
then
that.
there's Dune Part 2. Yeah, they're doing like the Witch Sisters, whatever those. There's a TV show on that, and the Batman's doing the same thing. There's like a couple of Batman TV shows, like The Penguin coming out on HBO, and I'm just like, stop diluting, stop. I mean, that sounds great, but like, I don't need it constantly. Give me some wiggle room, some space, and explore some alternatives, and like create new franchises with in between these ones that we love.
And who knows? Maybe the actors and writers strike that are happening right now will kind of naturally introduce something like that into the system, where it obviously is going to delay some of the current projects, and then after, hopefully, a lot of the writers, everything's get paid more wages and they have more time to work on stuff and not overworked and all these things. Like maybe that will kind of naturally introduce better quality writing, more original stories. And I'm hoping, the biggest thing is I hope that we as like an audience, as the viewers, can like, I'm not saying like make sure to go to these movies and don't go to these movies, because I'm not here to tell you what to do. But just like that we can recognize those good, independent, self-contained films, and that we can also go to those and hopefully make sure that they make money so that we can tell them this is what we want more of. Because when freaking, and I mean, to be fair, it did a lot worse than the previous ones did, but like when Fast X still made however many freaking $1 million, they're just going to be like, yeah, this is why we're making Fast X Part 2 and Part 3, you know?
How the Meg 2 made more money than Oppenheimer in like the first weekend. Is that what it was? I'll have to double check on that. I might be off, but
that was the recommendation that one of the theater people had for me. It was like, go see the Meg 2. And I was like, what? I like Jason Statham, but I don't. The OG shark movie, Deep Blue Sea, that's great. All these other ones, too much. But I actually really like the discussion here that we're talking about because it needs to be a gapped out space, right? We're vying for attention in the theater scene, right? And the reason I think they're coming out with so much, is because it's attention, it's content. Think about how often we're needing content. And like content is so hard to come by, like good viral content. And that's what they're trying to build is a good viral content that is 2.5 hours long or, that's millions and millions of things. Where if we look back at some of the biggest hits over the past decade, many of them have been super organic, easygoing things like A Quiet Place.
Get Out. Stuff
like that. That wasn't like people had some hype around it, but it wasn't like the biggest blockbuster, right, in the world. And so, I don't know. I'm curious about the mix. And when I think about franchises, right, I think about Star Wars a lot because I also love Star Wars so much. But I think about it because, like, the original trilogy came out long before I was born. And then we went to the late 90s, early 2000s before the next trilogy came out. May have been crap, but it was more Star Wars content. So I was enjoying so much of that. And then going forward, I actually like Jar Jar Binks, one of my favorite characters of all time. Actually.
Get out.
No, I'm dead serious. I had if you want to know how obsessed I was, I got a Jar Jar shirt. I got a Jar Jar stuffed animal dude who made the sounds. I could do the voice. And I thought Jar Jar was the coolest character around because he was comedic relief throughout the whole thing or possibly a Sith Lord. Nobody knew. But I'm not joking with you. I enjoyed that. And then when we talk about going forward, how many years was it from that trilogy, the second trilogy of Star Wars films, to the next big boost? And I recognize we've talked about this on the podcast and people have reacted to us and been like, you guys suck because you believe that we deserve better Star Wars. Think about the famines we have. But it's I like the gaps. I'm happy there are gaps in between these things because guess what? Gives me time to build actual nostalgia around it. Like you were mentioning, you're growing up with it. But then I'm I've had a breather. I've had a break. I've watched these a couple of times on the back end. And now I'm here for the next thing. Because I remember actually we hadn't seen each other in a while. And I saw you at one of the premieres of the Star Wars films because our companies had paid to go to the theater, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, hey, and we were there. And people were dressed up in fun. And I like that. I want that type of thing. I just don't want yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we can get that type of thing if we just completely bail on anything new, right? I don't know. It's hard. I get it from the money perspective too. From the studio perspective, it's we want a guaranteed hit. Did you see what I pulled up here on the computer?
Yeah, that looks amazing.
Well, and that's the thing. Is it has such interesting. Sorry, you can go ahead with it.
This was a July 3rd, 2023 article from Variety.com. The headline is Daniel Kaluuya's Barney movie is an A24 type film that's surrealistic and for adults, says Mattel executive. Not that it's R-rated. This is the kind of stuff we're getting here from Mattel.
Well, because here's the thing.
Franchising, this Mattel stuff, does that make you more interested and less disappointed in this announcement from Mattel? Maybe they did understand, the Mattel execs, maybe they did understand that it wasn't just Barbie that sold it. It was actually getting an artistic person who, or would you rather see Daniel Kaluuya make something that's not Barney?
That's the thing, is so much of that headline, I'm yes. Daniel Kaluuya, A24 type movie, surrealistic, and then Barney. I don't. It's what was it? Because obviously it was really low budget or whatever. But you guys remember when Winnie the Pooh became public domain and that movie came out?
Didn't someone? What was it? Blood and Honey.
And it's just terrible. It's just trash. It's just we can use Winnie the Pooh, so let's make this slasher horror movie with Winnie the Pooh and Piglet and stuff like that, right?
So and I want Barney movie, but I want it in the same light, terrifying sequences as my favorite film, Midsommar. That's what I want is a Barbie movie. Like it's like a set of like Happy Valley, Happy Village. Everyone's going about doing their thing. Out comes Barney.
I want Barney in the
make it a horror movie
in the bear skin. Barney in the bear skin.
Is that where we're going with these little kids TV shows? You're gonna have like a Teletubbies horror slasher, and that's the future.
Just taking the things that you're like, okay, the
millennial childhood nostalgia.
I want Teletubbies, but Power Rangers and Transformers mixed together. Like these are the things I want. I want them to
bananas and pajamas coming after you.
I want a new Flintstones era. No, but I think what's interesting is when we're talking about this, the idea is going back to Talk to Me. You talked about how they could have done this with a large studio, but they relinquished and kept creativity, right? I want more directors to have that creative freedom, and I don't want it to be so much like, and I'm not saying anything against big data. I use data all the time, like, oh, this is what people would like. But I'm also like, you're the creators, surprise us. Like, actually show us something that makes sense. And if there's something that's absolutely should not be in there, obviously they can cut it, right? But if there's something you're like you want to leave the movie sometimes like with a, like, what the fuck? Like, I want that type of experience, right? And I think about movies that we've went to, that we've had that we've talked about, like, oh, we talked really good. And other movies that we've went to that we've had, oh, it's fine. And we've driven away from the theater. I don't know.
I think that the scariest part of franchising for me, like, I love to be in a universe that I love. But I went and saw the new TMNT movie last week. It's the most beautiful, ugly movie I've ever watched in my life. That being said, like that meaning like the art is so unique in the art style that it's chose, but it's like some of the ugliest character models like I've ever seen, but they're beautifully ugly, if that makes sense at all. Like the people are just kind of like weird looking. The turtles look great. It's kind of this claymation. It's beautifully ugly. I love it, love it, love it. They took a lot of liberties with the TMNT franchise. They twisted their origins, so they're similar. In this new version, like Splinter's origin is completely different. He is just a New York City rat that got mutated by ooze and decided to teach his teenage turtles karate because he wanted them to be able to defend themselves in the streets of New York, and watched a lot of kung fu movies. That's their origin in this one. And all the past TMNT origins that I've seen, Splinter comes from Japan. In one version, he was a human who got mutated into a rat, and this is tied to Shredder is like they knew each other when they were both humans and they were in love with the same woman. Anyway, they take a lot of liberties with the franchise and twist it and manipulate it into this new version of it all. And I liked the movie fine, but I didn't love it because it changed things so much. Even the turtles' personalities are just a little bit different. They tried to modernize it, and everything. So my point is, I love franchises when I'm into it, but when I'm not as into it as I am not as for example, this TMNT movie, I'm not as into this new version of the Turtles as I've been in the past. I don't really look forward to this franchise as much as I used to, because I know it's coming and I'm not really into this new version as much. I want more of the animation style and everything, but I wish they wouldn't have taken so many liberties. So what I'm saying is I'm kind of disappointed that this is the next 10 years of Turtles that I'm going to get, when the last 10 years of Turtles hasn't been great either. So franchising can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing. That's my biggest worry recently with the whole thing is like, I'm really excited for the DCU, the new DCU, because this current DCU has not been good for a long time. So
have you guys seen the Blue Beetle yet, or whatever that is?
It comes out in like 2 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah,
see,
no.
You know where I am in the world.
And my last, kind of as we are kind of wrapping this up, my last thought about that is these directors need to have creative liberty almost unrestricted. I'll say almost unrestricted creative liberty, because when it's really unrestricted all the way, you get Beau is Afraid.
I was just waiting for that. I didn't want to cut you off, but I'm like, it's on to my tongue. I was like, I want to say it. I want to say it.
You could have said it. I would have been like, yes, we're on the same wavelength. I love Ari Aster, and Beau is Afraid. To be fair, a lot of people seem to like it, at least more than we did, but there's definitely a lot of like, okay, like this is true. Ari Aster got to do whatever the freak he wanted, and some parts worked, some parts didn't work. That's what it is.
That's how I felt about, Ari Ari Aster's first film that was filmed in Park City.
Hereditary. What?
Where I felt like, well, see, and I've evolved a little bit from that, but I was like, wow, that's a lot of creative control because some of it was so brutal. But
that makes sense.
We're going to move forward a little bit because we've been harping on this. But yeah, I'm curious to see what your guys' opinions are on kind of like franchises versus standalone movies. What do directors need? Do they need full creative freedom? Do they need a mixture of, things? Or do the companies that sponsor them deserve the actual pull and final say? Like, what's the mix that you would want? Let us know in the comments. Really quickly, I did want to ask, we are kind of doing, obviously a mix of things today, but what have you guys been watching lately? I want to diverge over to that really quickly. I think we've mentioned a few things, but is there anything that you've been watching that's like stood out to you that's been exciting? I've actually got some films this week, but I want to start with someone else.
Okay. You guys are looking at me, so I guess I'll go.
We'll stare at you.
Let me pull up my Letterboxd. So I rewatched both Barbie and Oppenheimer in the theater.
Saw both again.
Did you do a double feature again, or was
not
it
a double
different
feature
times?
again? I did. So I did a double feature, but with a different movie. I went to see Oppenheimer, and when I went to see Oppenheimer, I realized that it was the opening Thursday night for Talk to Me, and
so you decided
there was tons of seats available. So I was like, and there was a showing like 15 minutes after my Oppenheimer showing got done. So I was like, sure, let's do it. And so I went to Talk to Me right after that. And then I went to Barbie a few days later with Jaleesa. So it was nice. So that was good. Obviously, I saw Oppenheimer and Barbie again.
Can I ask you a question, though, really quickly?
Yeah.
Because you said when we did the Barbenheimer episode, you said kind of like the back-to-back of it, like you didn't maybe not have enough time to process it. Was it different going back and seeing them separately this time and having maybe, I know you went and watched Talk to Me afterwards, but like, was it different? Was it better? Did it change your opinion of those films?
So Barbie, not as much. It didn't change. It was still like really good. And it was definitely really interesting to be able to see it with Jaleesa and talk to her about her perspective on everything that happened afterwards, versus going with my brother. Right. So that's obviously a lot of different kind of perspective to have there. But Oppenheimer, it was a lot more of just, because even though it's a kind of historical movie, there's also still a lot in the story that you have to understand as it goes along to kind of understand where he's trying to go with it, to talk about morality, to talk about Oppenheimer's feelings and how it fit in with the world and where the world is going now. So it was really, really interesting knowing kind of where it ended up, to see the steps along the way to get there. And that last hour, that the first time I was kind of like, it kind of dragged like a little more than I would have liked. I was actually more like into that last hour this time because I understood a lot more of what was going on. I still think maybe it was like a tad too bit stretched out at the end, but like I wasn't complaining. I'm like, this was good. I understood the Strauss storyline more. The moments still gave me goosebumps, even though I knew they were coming. The explosion scene, the gymnasium scene, the very final scene and shots, and also just having afterwards watched videos about how they made a lot of those like shots that showed like the molecular world and all of these things. It was just so cool to see those moments and to feel it. And I'm probably, if I'm honest, probably going to see it again because they extended Oppenheimer's IMAX. Yep. They extended its IMAX run, and I'm just like that IMAX experience, it's something else. I'm going to go again, like, because I'll never be able to do it again. Because one of the other movies that I just watched recently on here, my Letterboxd review of it was, God, I wish I could see this in IMAX, was Gravity. I just watched Gravity the other day, and I was like, we went and saw this in the theater, and it was a great experience when it first came out.
But we didn't see it in IMAX.
We didn't see it in IMAX.
Yeah.
And that, I'm just thinking about how Gravity would have looked and sounded and felt in IMAX. And
I would have
like,
gotten so sick. That movie.
Let me tell you, it was great. I think we talked about this last time I saw it in IMAX. It was great.
Cool.
5 stars.
But
5 stars.
I think it kind of almost ruined it for regular watching for me because I felt like it was a roller coaster. And after having that experience, I was just like, this is not going to be the same experience as I am having right now. So I don't want to taint that memory with just like watching it at home and being like, this isn't as good as I remember it being, like it was a roller coaster ride, being moving into all those spaces with her and everything. It was so cool.
The last time I rewatched Gravity, I like I'm pretty sure it was as soon as it was available, back in 2013 or 14 or whatever, I bought the movie on DVD. It was like available at the grocery store or something, so I had it. I might have even had Blu-ray. I don't remember. I went to go rewatch it on my television, and I have a better one now, but the TV I had was not great. It was really dark and stuff, and I started watching it, and I was just like, this is not good. Like, and the viewing of it is what makes this movie so good. And so I said, I know that I already own this movie on this DVD. I checked to see if you could do one of those digital things with it, and you couldn't. And so I was just like, screw it. I went and I bought it again on Amazon Prime, and I watched it on my gaming monitor because it was just such higher quality. I was like, I'm going to watch it like this, like, because it was just me watching it. It wasn't anyone else. I was like, let's watch it on my gaming monitor. So I watched Gravity. Let's see. I rewatched Baby Driver. Oh, we have a whole episode on Baby Driver.
We can like Kevin Spacey again. Did you see that?
Yes.
He got acquitted of everything.
Let's go.
I'm so excited. I started watching House of Cards because I never finished that. And Kevin Spacey is such a good actor. Like, I still don't know all the details, but I just saw the headline of like he was not found guilty for any of the charges. So I'm just like,
let's go.
I doubt he'll ever be back in a movie again after all this, but like now I can watch those old shows without feeling like guilty, you know? Perfect. I'm so excited about it. Anyway, Baby Driver's amazing. It's one of my favorite movies. You guys know that already.
Go back and listen to our episode. I'm pretty sure it's up on YouTube, and if not, it's in our
it's in our hearts.
It's definitely up
and in our repository. Yeah, it's on there.
So, Baby Driver. I watched Crazy Rich Asians for the first time.
Yes, I love that movie.
It was good. I just like, I don't know. I've heard things like that about it. Like I'm pretty sure your review is fairly similar to what I'm about to say. There's like this like weird aura built up around Crazy Rich Asians that it's supposed to be like this next level rom-com, insane, blah.
Yeah.
And I liked it and it was good, but I guess I just kind of had some of those expectations, and a lot of the movie I was just like, I don't really care.
I think a big
I know
deal.
where it's going.
I think a big deal at the time is like one of the first movies of like an all Asian cast and everything, and so it was like really built up that way. And then I saw it and I was just like, this is just like a run-of-the-mill rom-com.
Yeah.
Like the story is exactly like any story I've ever seen. It's just with all Asian cast. So it didn't really make that impact for me. But I'm sure like the Asian community at the time was just like, I feel seen, I feel represented. And now we're getting a lot more movies. Like, what's that one you just saw?
Joyride.
Yeah, like a little while ago. It was kind of promoted the same way. It was just like, it's an all Asian female cast, but this time they make dirty jokes, you know? And it's a solid movie, but I was just like,
because like even Michelle Yeoh in it, I was like, she's okay. Like,
I think what's hard about this one is kind of like contextually, like we're talking about, like
that we're a couple of middle-aged white guys that just
I was like, we're white dudes.
It wasn't made for us,
and it was like we're not the original target audience for that, right? We're obviously they want us to go see it and see that, like, oh, like. And I think about this as someone who lived in like Southeast Asia for like nearly 3 years. Is like, oh, like not everyone lives in a shanty. Not the whole all of Asia isn't slums and that kind of thing. And so, like I say, this
crazy rich Asians.
Yeah, there are some crazy rich Asians. It's very fascinating to like look at it from a perspective of like, for me, there were Filipino actors in there too. Like the queen is actually a Filipina,
cool.
And she like actually what's really crazy is she kind of comes from like politically amazing stock in the Philippines, and someone's going to comment and be like, oh, you know, the Aquinos, they have X, Y, and Z. Like, I don't really care about that, but like she comes from this background, so it's really cool to see someone who wasn't like this is kind of weird too to say like a typically highlighted royalty Asian like person, like a higher Asian person, be put in a role like that. And so it's very fascinating. I liked it. And I'm glad that you watched it, and I'm okay that it wasn't your favorite, and there was another run-of-the-mill comedy for you, and it was that. I have to acknowledge that. But I loved Awkwafina in that film. Like I could talk about
the first
Awkwafina.
time I saw her ever.
Oh, she's so good. And then also Ken Jeong as the dad in that film is extraordinary. I think more so than the Young family, I liked Awkwafina's family more so than that. They were the comedic relief, but it also shows kind of like the laughter and hysterical things, because so often, like, I think about this, like, and I've done this before too, there are kids in like the developing world who are starving, like they'd be glad to eat this, and they'd do the same thing. There are kids in America who are starving, like they make lines like that. So sorry, I had to derail. I really like it. Definitely a run-of-the-mill comedy, but just for a different audience.
And I am glad I saw it as well. Like, it's been on my list forever. forever. Like I've been needing to see it, but I just hadn't. So that one, and I've just got
I've like
a couple more.
Dove in on all of your things. I'm sorry. I just am so
You're
chatty
fine.
today.
No, you're good. You're good. I rewatched House at the End of the Street, Jennifer Lawrence horror movie from 2012, I think.
So classic.
It's so bad.
Is it not
It's
good?
not that good. It's sad because this was like, I think my group of friends in high school watched this like 3 or 4 times. Like all hanging out in someone's basement, turn off the lights. We're going to watch House at the End of the Street.
I think it's one of those horror movies that, like Insidious or whatever, that's like, it's in that I'm becoming an adult. I want to, get this rush of a horror movie, but I'm not quite to the point where I can get into like real horror. It's like teen horror,
Yeah.
There's like preteen horror that's like, what's that one?
The Village?
No, it's like it's based on a book like of horror stories. I can't think of the name of it right now.
Scary Stories to Scare in the Dark.
Yeah. And that one's for like, the 13 going on 14-year-olds. And then you have like the 16-year-old ones like this one where it's like, I'm getting there. And then you have like,
because there's like the little
Lie to Me or
romance involved
or
in
Talk
it.
to Me and Hereditary and all these. Yeah. So anyway, sorry.
Yeah, and that could just
It's a
be a lot of
transitional
it.
movie.
So that makes a lot more sense because I came back to this, kind of starting spooky season, starting watching scary movies now. Just hoping that it would live up to that. Oh yeah, like we loved this, watching it in my friend group as a kid, and I watched it and I was like, dang, I want this to be better. It's just not. It makes me sad. And I love that the top rated freaking review on Letterboxd is like, the house isn't even at the end of the freaking street. What is this? Like,
That doesn't make any sense.
not even the title makes sense. Come on. So yeah, that was
funny.
bad. And then I feel bad for only giving it 3.5 stars, but I finally watched The Mitchells versus the Machines.
Oh, only 3.5?
Only 3.5, which
Didn't
I
you love this movie,
I
right?
did. I loved Mitchell's versus the Machines.
Here's the thing. I loved it. There were just like so many times, and this could have been like just a situation of personal. This could have just been. It could have just lost stars because of the personal situation I was in. I was just like not like fully like.
Mhm.
It's not that I wasn't fully there. It was just like me and Julissa were hanging out. It was like, okay, I'm sorry. Like for the last few nights, I've like only like watched what I've watched, and you've played the Switch or something like that, and we haven't been able to like decide, hey, let's watch something together. What do you want to do? And we just like a lot of different things,
Yeah.
right? Like she likes a lot more of the funny, whatever, and I like Talk to Me and stuff like that. And so I was like, Mitchell's vs. the Machines is an animated movie. I know you like those kinds of movies, and this one's supposed to be like really, really good. Let's watch it. So I was like, okay, so it's kind of like a middle ground. It's been on my list for forever, and I was really, really excited, and I did enjoy it a lot. I thought it was really, really fun. I love the cast. Oh my gosh, like so many people were in there. So funny. There was just so many times where I was like, this is like a little like overstimulating, low key, where I was like, they're doing like
So
that kind
much.
of like that kind of thing that I like.
Kind of that cross universe thing.
Kind of cross universe thing, right? Throwing other stuff in there, but just like there was so much of not that specifically, but just kind of like the extra stuff going on, and some of it in ways that I was just like, this is kind of too much. Like I don't know how I feel about this. Like I still enjoyed it. Solid movie. I think the biggest part that kind of didn't. How do I say this? I love when those animated or other movies that you're not expecting to can get you like emotional, get you in your feels. And I felt like this movie set up that really well. And to be fair, I did shed like a couple tears sort of near the end, but I was just, the way that it set it up, I was expecting, it's not like it didn't make me cry more, so bad, but I was just like, I was feeling it like as the movie built up, and as it resolved, I was kind of like, oh, okay. Like there was a couple moments, like I said, that I like teared up a little bit, but I was like, oh, I thought this was kind of be bigger, and they were gonna get more into like these characters and whatnot. And so I guess I was just unrealistically building that up, and I had expectations for it. But either way, it's a solid movie. It's one that I would rewatch 100% in the future. That's the biggest part of it.
So I'm now the only person at this table who hasn't watched that movie. So I feel like
And it's
maybe,
a solid watch that I'd say to check out.
maybe I should watch it, and maybe we can do a podcast on it. I know it's an older film, but I think it's still something, because you talked about it, I feel like, in a couple podcasts the other year when it came out.
Probably. I really enjoyed
You
it.
really enjoyed it. Well, Josh, anything else you want to talk about really quickly?
The TV show that has taken over my life.
Formula One?
Formula One. Drive to Survive. My buddy, Ryan, from work, he has been trying to get me to watch Formula One and trying to get me to watch Formula One. I'm like, I don't care about it. I don't care about it. And then I went, and we were staying with Jaleesa's mom and stepdad, and he's a big NASCAR guy. And I guess it was just kind of assumed on Sunday that Jaleesa was going to hang out with her mom and I was going to watch NASCAR with her stepdad. And I was like, okay. And to be fair, I didn't love it, like NASCAR itself. But as, you know, he kind of explained to me the point system and how it works and all that stuff, I was like, okay, that's a little bit more interesting. And afterwards, I looked up what Formula One was, and I was like, oh, it's the interesting parts of NASCAR, but the uninteresting things are better in Formula One.
Yes.
And so it's like, okay, I'll at least give like the show to survive, because the show basically just goes season by season since like 2018, I think, and just kind of does like background stories on what's going on, the drama, all the
They
stuff.
just did a Netflix. Is it on Netflix? It is, right?
Yeah,
they just did a tennis version of this. I think they have like a golf version of it, like where they actually get into the players and like their
NFL
history and how they feel during the tournaments. And yeah, it's really interesting.
NFL just released the first season of a show called Quarterbacks, which is like, it goes behind the scenes with Patrick Mahomes and Kirk Cousins and all of these people, and people are loving it. And so I think they're going to keep on doing stuff like this because it is really interesting for the people who are already fans of those sports.
Oh yeah.
Then you get an even cooler,
and the people who are just
look.
like casual fans like me, like I played tennis in high school. I don't really play anymore. I used to follow it back when I played. All of the players are retired that I know now.
Who was your player that you followed the most?
Federer.
I mean, probably. Yeah, Federer, Leighton Hewitt was a lot of fun to watch. Roddick was a lot of fun to watch.
Did you like Nadal?
Yeah, he just retired, I'm pretty
Just
sure,
this
right?
past year, and then Federer was like
and him and Federer like were the kings for years and years and years, you know. Even back when I was younger, and Agassi playing back in the day, you know, like all these guys are done now. They've been done for years, but literally everyone playing now, I'm like, I have no idea. I've never heard these names before. So I dropped into the first season of that tennis one and learned about like 4 or 5 different new players. It's really interesting. It's like, it's a nice like
it makes it easy
spot
to get back
start
into it.
again. Yeah, exactly.
So
I want to talk about this really quickly, and it goes back to our conversation before in this podcast where we're talking about the social attention thing. People want to know more about people. They want more substance, and this is what's building it like very effectively, because people are like, oh, I want a personality, I want a persona. And that's why we have so many social media influencers who make no sense in why they're famous, but they have a personality that people like. And they're finding that if they do this with athletes who do have like amazing personalities, or, you know, maybe lackluster ones at times on the court, but then you're like, oh, off the court, they're X, Y, and Z. And it's very fascinating. So sorry, I just want to interject that because I've heard the same things.
100%. One of my favorite like people in this F1 show, his name is Gunter, and he's a team principal for one of the teams, which is Haas, and Haas are terrible. They're so bad. Like, I'm pretty sure so there's 10 constructors in Formula One. So there's like 10 teams, and there's 2 drivers on each team, and there's like 2 championships. There's the constructors one where the 10 teams, and then the drivers, which is like the 20 drivers. So you're still competing against your teammate, but they're your teammate.
Okay.
Blah, blah, blah. Haas have finished like 8th to 10th, like for the past however many years or whatever, but they still keep on like covering them fairly extensively in this show because this Gunter guy is freaking great. And I love him. And not everyone, but a ton of people love him. And it's like, these people are terrible, but give us more Gunter. Like, it's what I freaking want. Yeah, he's like, him and the drivers will get into it. And he's just, I don't know. Because it's literally like, it'll show the team principal for Mercedes and the team principal for Red Bull. And those are kind of like the top 2 teams. And it'll talk a lot about them. And McLaren, it shows more their CEO, not like the team principal. But then the next like highest one that they'll show is like this Gunter guy. It'll show him interacting with them. And it's like, even though he's in 10th, they're like, show him. It's what they want. And I'm like,
what the people want.
Give it to me. So
that's amazing. The only Formula One guy I actually know is Sebastian Vettel, who's like retired
Sebastian
now.
Vettel.
And he's a German dude. He has a very cool personality to me. I don't know everything about his record, but he's good.
If I knew that there's someone that I think that you would like I'm not saying that you have to look into it or whatever.
I might.
Valtteri Bottas. Mm-hmm. He's a Finnish driver.
Oh, I'm already sold.
He's a Finnish driver. He's on like one of the lower teams now. I think he drives for Alfa Romeo now. But he drove for Mercedes like for years, and it was really like obviously it's a tough spot for him. He was in one of the best cars, but he had to be under Lewis Hamilton, who is like he won like 7 years in a row.
I've sat in his car.
All this stuff. Really?
Yeah.
Cool. When
I went to the SCME event in Canada.
Oh, you told me this.
Yeah.
Yes, talked about
I've
this.
seen like so many of his suits and stuff like that. Like
So Lewis Hamilton's basically like the Tom Brady, but like he's won the individual he won it I think 7 or 8 times or something, and 7 of those times was like in a row.
I want to highlight that
he won.
We should compare him to athletes, European athletes. He's like the Ronaldo, in my opinion, of F1. He's up there.
But then you'd have to say that Ronaldo was the best soccer player, and
Messi is better, but I'm saying most people know Ronaldo now. I guess we could use Messi because he's in the States playing. He's the Messi.
Dude, Messi is in the States smurfing in the MLS, as in just he is so much better than like all the people.
He's just playing.
He scored what, 8 goals in 5 games, something like that.
It's ridiculous.
Vince is bored.
But
let's talk about this.
We're gonna
I'm like over here
transition.
thinking, how can I transition this back to something?
Something I care
Well,
about.
I actually do want to
Something that I
transition
know.
to what Vince is.
Sorry,
No, you're good. What have you been watching, Vince? Though.
Well, I was gonna ask, like, now that you're into like racing stuff, are you gonna watch that new Gran Turismo movie that's coming up? Either of you
I
guys?
should. Here's the
will
thing.
watch it.
Yeah.
I should want to watch it.
Uh-huh.
I'm into F1 now, and this is kind of like basically about that.
Mm-hmm.
But like, kid playing the video games and blah 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 blah. David Harbour is in it.
Neil
One of the
Blomkamp's
biggest names
directing
in
it.
I don't care.
Really?
I just like, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe if he gets good reviews and people are like, hey, it's actually really good, I'll be like, okay. But I'm just like,
There's been
I've
previews coming out, and I think the highest praise that I've seen for it, and this is disappointing because I really like Neil Blomkamp as a director,
He's the
but
best.
the highest praise that I've seen has been like pretty good for a PlayStation commercial, a 2-hour-long PlayStation commercial. So
I think that's like the top comment on YouTube or something as well. I'm pretty
is that
sure
what I
like
saw?
somebody's
I
put
remember I
it.
saw a headline
Yeah.
No,
somewhere.
so I think like talking about that, like the Gran Turismo movie and other movies. I love car movies. I'm not a car person. I just like
Dude, Ford v Ferrari was awesome.
yeah, like stuff like that. Like the stories about like car racing and kind of like I like driving fast on the freeway from time to time. I'm a little reckless. What can I say? Not so much anymore. I have a child in the back seat trying to wheel it in with that cruise control, but like it's fun, it's exciting, and so I think car movies are fun. If the Gran Turismo movie sucks, it sucks, but I'll still go see it. But I also like this is really funny, like looking at a game that comes kind of like from the video gaming universe. I had the same concerns and fears about like Ready Player One. You were the person, I know it was a book, right? But it was all about like gaming universes and building things. And I was like very apprehensive to go watch it. And you were the one who's like, no, you should go see this. And so I'm hoping that Gran Turismo, with kind of the fandom it has, can.
I said that to you?
You told me to go see Ready Player One because you read the book.
Yeah. My opinion on that has changed drastically since I told you to do that.
Well, okay then. But like that was the thing though. Is I enjoy Ready Player One. I guess to say that like you were like, oh yeah, like I read the book because like
I remember loving the book when it first came out. But
and I'm pretty sure you was like, oh yeah, go see the movie. You may have
I
said like
probably did.
You're like, go see the movie. It's not the best, but it's not the worst thing. If you
I
haven't
don't
read the book.
remember.
I don't know, but anytime I was directed to the movie by you, so
Probably.
I don't think it sucks.
your
So
fault.
I'm glad you showed me the movie. But no, Vince, what are your thoughts on kind of what you've been watching? What's coming out?
Yeah, we're pushing time, so I won't really go into some of these. I've been in a TMNT kick, but after
Okay.
seeing that movie, so I went and rewatched Out of the Shadows, the like Michael Bay second TMNT movie. I'm just a glutton for punishment, guys. It's terrible, but I actually like these versions of the Turtles more than I like the new versions of the Turtles, mostly because it sticks to like the stereotypical Turtles personalities. Really leans into like a lot of people I've been seeing for Mutant Mayhem been talking about how much they love how these turtles actually feel like teenagers and they talk like teenagers and stuff. I get that, but I just feel like it kind of makes their personalities not stand out as much because they all kind of feel similar. They talk similar. They overlap each other when they're talking to each other. It is very realistic, but I like the old versions of, Raph is like really got anger management problems, and you can see because he's constantly just like the grumpy, angry one all the time. Instead of just like in this new version, Raph is more of just like this hyperactive, like all of them feel like Michelangelo in a way in the new one, just with their own little personality quirks. Like I said, Raph is more of like, I'm excited and a teenager, but I also have these, overbearing urges to wrestle people and fight people, and they kind of bicker a little bit, and it's like, I'm Donatello, I'm the smart one, but I'm in the anime, but I still act like Michelangelo. All of them are kind of like the same but different. And in these old iterations, they all have very differing, defined personalities, and you can just totally see that. And Out of the Shadows, they actually do a really good job of that, in my opinion. Like, their way that they work together, they talk to each other, just feels like very My Ninja Turtles. So that's great. That portion of it's great. They're basically Transformers movies with Ninja Turtles in it. So it's just not good. So Out of the Shadows is there. I watched it. I actually went and bought a new TMNT comic book. There's one that came out a little bit ago called The Last Ronin that's just supposed to be amazing. So the cover looks incredible. They just announced a video game for it yesterday too, and I'm pretty hyped about it because the story, from what I understand, I haven't started it yet, is that it's in the futures in the TMNT universe, and 3 of the turtles are dead, and there's one left, but it doesn't ever tell you which turtle it is because he's using all of their weapons, and he doesn't have a colored mask on or anything. So I don't know if it reveals it throughout the story or if it keeps that hidden.
Exciting.
Like, it's interesting. So I've been on a real TMNT kick, but I've been making my way through The Bear, and this show's just incredible. It's just so good. I just watched the Christmas episode last night. Don't want to do any spoilers, but like...
Yeah, because I haven't still.
You haven't got to that episode?
I haven't. I still haven't started season 2.
Okay, I won't even say anything about
Same,
it, but
though. I haven't
there's a
started
Christmas dinner episode last night.
Oh, I know who's in that one, though.
Do you know everyone who's in that one?
I know a lot of people. This isn't spoilers, is it?
I don't know. For me, it would have been because watching that episode, I was just like, "Oh my gosh, what's she doing here? Oh my gosh, what's he doing here?" Over and over again. Where I was just like, "This is an awesome episode." And maybe just saying that, I just spoiled it for people because for me, I didn't expect any names except for Bernthal, who we was introduced in the first season. Yeah. And that episode just brought in a lot of big names that I did not see coming at all.
There will probably still be some that surprise me, but I know a few of them, and I'm excited to get to it. And I'm just,
maybe you do know them all already then, because I think there was 1, 2, 3, 4 big names that I can think of off the top of my head, and one of them is Bernthal, who I already know. Anyway, it's a great episode, but The Bear is awesome. It makes me hungry every time I watch it. It keeps getting deeper and deeper into this family drama that I had no idea that I wanted to explore. And it stresses me out every time I watch it.
100%.
That's why I'm waiting. Is I need all of them to be
is...
finished and done so that I can actually experience the full roller coaster quickly. Because at the end of the last season, the first season, you watched the full of the first season, right? I was like, damn, that's a cliffhanger, right? So yeah, it's just one of those things.
Oh my gosh, Jeremy Allen White's monologue from the beginning of the finale of the first season, where he's at that Al-Anon meeting. Holy cow!
Not good. He's so good. I really like him. I mean, every actor in this movie is great.
Yeah.
I just have to shout out Evan Moss-Bacharach too, man. Like, he has become.
Who is that? Sorry.
He plays Ricky.
Is that the brother?
Richard?
Or cousin?
Cousin. Yeah. Is his name Ricky?
Cousin. I don't remember.
Yeah, cousin. The
other guy who helps. Oh, he owns the restaurant.
I love that actor. He was in.
Well, he's also nominated, right? For
an Emmy. I wouldn't be surprised. He was also in that Star Wars show that I loved, the Rogue One prequel, Andor. He did great in that. There's rumors that he's going to be cast in a Marvel movie, specifically Fantastic Four.
Great.
There was rumors that he's going to be the Thing, but I think that's been discredited at this point. But I would have loved him as the Thing. Give me more of him. He's great. Also, the girl who plays Sydney. I don't know how to pronounce her name. I have it right here. It's I'm not even going to attempt it. I'm sorry, but she's great. And I think... I gotta double check, but I think she played April O'Neil in the new TMNT. Yeah, she plays April, I'm fairly certain, and she does great in it as April. Fack, I love Fack so much.
Yes. Maddie Matheson,
he's so funny in it.
It's amazing.
I love this show. I can't believe how much I love this show. Like all the hype that everyone has for it is justified. Like it is such a pretty show, and it's such a personal show, even from like their stories, but also to the way that it's shot. Like I was watching it last night, just thinking every shot in this chaotic situation is like close up on people's faces, so you feel just like the chaos and the tension and the stress of it all, and you're just in there with those characters, and all those characters are such good actors that like you believe 100% that they're going through this situation, and you are there with them, and you see it in their faces, and it's just stressed. It's just such a beautifully shot show, beautifully written show, beautifully. Just I love it. Love it so much.
Yes, chef. Yes, chef, indeed. All right, guys. Just because due to time, and actually, my wife has just called me, and we have a little bit of a thing I have to take care of. I'm just gonna finish out really quick with a couple things I've been watching. I'm sorry to interject.
No, that's all.
I've been doing a lot of more movie watching lately for some reason than I have in a long time. Went back and rewatched Big Hero 6. I remember why I love that show that movie so much. I just think that one, the animation was really cool. The idea of just like building a team, like it just kind of takes me back to like the cartoons of my childhood, right? Like build a team, accomplish a task, and like the use of mixed tech in it. I did go back and rewatch my two favorite Danish films, The Hunt and then Another Round. I think that was my favorite movie of 2020 or 2021. Mm-hmm. The Hunt is the same director, Thomas Vinterberg, and also the same lead actor.
Oh, that one?
Yeah. No, not that movie.
Oh,
that's a different Hunt.
I was going to say, like, that's the only one I know. It's like the one where they're hunting people, and I remember
that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah. It got, like, pushed.
No. So The Hunt, it's the 2012 version. So essentially, it's this guy is a teacher at
It's got Mads Mikkelsen, too.
Yeah, Mads Mikkelsen. Okay. So the same director, same actor leading it out. Mads Mikkelsen's character he works at a school for children, and he's accused of crimes, essentially like sexual assault type thing of a minor, which is totally untrue and unfounded. Like it shows you the whole details of like what happened, and when the girl says, "If you don't hang out with me more, I'll say something," and it's like an 8-year-old child, and then how people start hunting him, like in this small kind of Danish countryside village, which is very fascinating.
Okay.
And kind of the outcome of that's disproved and that the lie happened and what the results of the lies are. And then finally, I want to talk about this new movie I watched on the plane, which was The Pope's Exorcist. Have you guys heard about this at all?
I've seen the ads for it.
Yeah. Not the most amazing movie. I'm going to highlight that.
Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe, yeah. And
I
it's the one where they actually everyone gets the photos of him being back in Rome after Gladiator after 20 years, because that's what he was filming during that time. But I thought it was actually a lot of fun, because I think I'm obsessed with the lore of the Catholic Church and stuff like that, and how kind of it all goes down. And I think exorcisms, like nobody likes talking about them, but I think they're fascinating from like a standpoint. And he talks about it in the movie. The character is based off an actual exorcist who was actually the Pope's like right-hand man with exorcism, potentially performed upwards of like 100,000 exorcisms. But what's crazy about it is he talks about there's a moment that defines it, and it's not a huge spoiler or anything like that, but he defines it like when the moment he understood that the ideas of faith need to balance out with the ideas of science and psychology and understanding to actually help people in the long term, right? He's like, we can go in and distract a spirit from malevolent behavior, right? But if the person is actually themselves like unwell, you can go in and make them feel like, oh, I've done something, you're changed, but that's not a long-term like causal like effect to change your life, because people can still have negative things afterwards, which I thought was very fascinating. And even with just telling you that, there's still another hour and 70 minutes.
So is this not just like a cheesy horror movie?
I don't think it's that cheesy. It had a little bit more heart to me than that.
I didn't see much about it. I just saw Russell Crowe.
I think it's only got like 3.4, 3.5 stars. So not a lot of people liked it, but that's what I took from it.
I just kind of assumed it was going to be like The Nun, that kind of movie. Like
it kind of is. There is a section that is about that, because it talks about some stuff that happened during the Spanish Inquisition.
But does it kind of feel like that same style horror, or is it more of a...
It's more that same style horror. But I feel like they tried to put some the horror but the heart in there, like type thing, which I really like. Because I think horror with just the aim to horror is great, but I also like just like, oh yeah, you should be scared of this because of blank, but also like
some depth to it.
It had some depth. And this guy, I forget what his actual name is, the exorcist, he wrote like 10 books on how like you can like actually help people in the long term, and like the church in some ways doesn't love them because they're not like just like faith-based books. So it was very fascinating for me. So yeah, I'm not saying that this is the greatest movie. Go out and see it. But if it's one that pops up, you're like, oh, this could be good. Kind of watch out for a mixture of things. Like it is scary. It's quite terrifying. And I don't want to call out anyone on the airplane in case they ever listen to this. But there was this old man who was sitting next to me, just on the other row. And there's a couple of scenes where there's like a topless person in it, and he would like turn over and like look every single time. As soon as that person was gone, he was like looking back, and I was like, "Bro, use your own monitor."
You can watch this yourself.
Yeah, but that was kind of what I've been watching, and then I stepped back in to watch a new season of What We Do in the Shadows, which I really love.
I'm in that too.
I've been really loving that. So yeah, that's what I've been watching outside of YouTube.
Is it Laszlo? Is that his name?
Yeah.
No. Not Laszlo.
There's Laszlo.
What's the guy from IT Crowd that plays the like president of the company? Nadia's wife or husband. I can't think.
That's
of his
Laszlo.
name. Is that Laszlo?
Yeah,
okay,
it's Laszlo. Yeah.
What's the main guy's name then? Not the main guy. The Familiar's vampire's name.
Oh, he's now you're putting me on the spot here.
Anyway, Laszlo, just that actor. I will watch him in anything he does. He makes me laugh so hard.
Yeah, so he's Laszlo, and then we have Nandor the Relentless. I wanted to call him Nando, and I was like, that's like a pizza place or something like that. But Nandor the Relentless, he's great.
Laszlo's the best. Just what's that actor's name?
Laszlo is Matt Berry.
Matt Berry.
He's hilarious.
He's so dang funny.
It's great. If you haven't watched What We Do in the Shadows, Josh, I would recommend it. It's just something funny in the background.
It is who I was thinking. He's the guy who's in the grifting episode of Community.
Yeah.
He's a funny dude. I like that whole entire cast. The ensemble is great.
Yeah,
and then there's the guy who plays Colin Robinson, who I think is the weirdest, funniest dude. But like this is the role he was built for at the same time. So yeah, that's
true.
That's just kind of been going on. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add. I'm sorry, I kind of was
Wrapping
like,
up
I need
quick.
to go. But anything else? Any last thoughts?
We hit our hour, so I think we're set.
Boom. 1 hour movie talk. Thank you guys for joining us today. It's good to be back in the studio and actually talking movies. We'll pick a movie that all three of us will watch. I'm the weak link here. I just have to highlight that. Vince and Josh always do their homework, and I'm just like, chaos. So
Vince and Josh don't have children.
Yeah, you're the one with a baby and traveling for work and living 2 hours south. And
all of these things are my own fault, though. That's the thing, though. So it's not like I'm like, guys, pity me here. It's just me not following through. But next time, we'll pick a full movie to watch, talk through, and we'll enjoy it. And join us again next time on the Pause Rewind Play podcast.